OG, can you tell us which gang in particular that you belong to?
I'm from the Magnificent Seven. In my immediate neighborhood, my childhood friends were Stanley Tookie Williams. He lived on 69th. Monster Cody, he stayed on 69th. And Pretty Boy stayed on 67 from the 60s. And Big Odie Shaw stayed on 65th, who was the founder of the Rolling 60s. We were all West Side Crips at first, and when the West Side broke up, it fractioned off. I've been gangbanging ever since I was a youngster, and I'm not proud of that, but that was the lifestyle and environment that I grew up in.
Now, OG, we have you here today to speak on the late, great Nipsey Hussle. Now, did you ever have a chance to meet Nip?
Nip came on the set when I was incarcerated. I was incarcerated for 32 years and 4 months. I heard a lot about Nipsey, and he was a true gangbanger. He wasn't no studio rapper, and he could come in the hood, he could relax because he was part of the neighborhood, you know, the Rolling 60s. I'd never been a Rolling 60, but I was a Dinker Crip, and the Dinker Crips evolved into the Rolling 60s. So my relationship with the Rolling 60s has always been one of complete. They were my comrades in prison and on the street. I never got involved between the conflict between them and the A-Trays, other than try to be a mediator and try to get them to reel it back in. Nipsey Hussle was a very respected young comrade who made a difference in his neighborhood, who was respected and looked up to and admired. He was a role model.
Now, OG, there's an individual named Wack 100 who's made several inflammatory comments about Nip and his overall legacy. What do you think of individuals attacking Nip's character and his legacy?
There's a such thing of scum. It usually finds itself at the bottom of a basin somewhere. And the scum, it usually comes up when some uncleanness has taken place. When a human being acts like scum, there's not too much to think about, you know, other than people who are scum, they're opportunists. So Nip had a bright star, and the scum, he wants to get illuminated by the bright star that Nip was shining on this universe. So he knows that the only way he could bring himself into the light of that is in a negative way, because he doesn't have enough sense or know how to get a part of that by being positive, by complimenting the young brother. Some of these brothers today, they real quick at putting another brother down. There's a lot of hate out there, and it's jealousy. It's sad because the individuals who prescribe to jealousy and this type of hate and being a scum, they don't have to do that, but they do it because they don't know any better. They're ignorant.
Now, OG, a lot of people were quick to jump on Kodak Black when he made those inflammatory comments about Lauren London. Now, however, there seems to be a deafening silence when Wack attacks Nip. From my point of view, being an outsider looking in, it would seem that these same people are intimidated by Wack. What do you think of people that pick and choose when is the right time to defend Nip?
What we have going on in this country right now, we have a president that bullies women, he intimidates. His own party won't even speak out against him and stand for what is right. And then we have all those people you just named, who I consider busters. My definition of a buster is a person who doesn't have any backbone, persons that's spineless. I've been in situations in prison where I was the only one from my neighborhood, but I would represent my neighborhood to the fullest of my ability. Even if it meant receiving a beat down, I would still represent my neighborhood. You know, if someone spoke against it at the time when I would protect it in the way that I did. So you have this guy, and I'm gonna call him a buster because he deserves that title now. because he's definitely acting like a buster. He may even be a rat, because anytime I ever had a fight or any type of violence and I came up on the wrong end of it, I never, alluded to who done it. Outside of my homeboys, while we were going to seek revenge, they needed to know who done it. But this guy got two-pieced, and everybody knows who done it. He's a dry snitch. He's nobody to be looked up to or anyone to be afraid of. He might have a little bit of money in his bank account, but it's not your money. It's not my money. I don't respect a buster because he has a big audience. If he does something that's, deplorable, like snitching on who beat him up, talking shit about someone who's deceased, who he's unworthy to shine the person's shoes if he was still here, he doesn't count. He would have to move out of my neighborhood if he lived in my neighborhood. But this guy, he's what you call a cyber cell soldier. He's a buster. And he runs with certain groups and certain people. There's little lackeys and stuff. But he's a nobody. He's a buster.
But the funny thing is, OG, I was about to ask you that. You doing a lot of time in prison. When you get into a function or you get into a scrap with somebody, or you get it on, you don't allude to who did it, or you get attacked, or you get jumped and the guards come, or whatever the case might be. You don't say, oh, such and such, man, I'm gonna get him, man, he just did this and that. Because where I'm from, that's a form of dry snitching. What do you think about that?
It's the basic form, it's the realest form of dry snitching. You don't allude to who hurt you, you don't talk to the guards. If you bleeding, you patch yourself up. You go to the infirmary, they come in there, they try to ask you what happened, you don't know what happened. You shut down. The main reason Crips, we start calling each other cuz, is because when the police would stop us in a group, they would separate us. And they would say, well, what's his name? And I would say his name is Cuz. And then when the other cop would say to the other Crip, well, what's his name? He'd say his name is Cuz. So you got 20 motherfuckers there, from the same set, my homeboys, and we all Cuz. Because we would completely shut down when the authority would come around. Because we had enough street smarts to know that if you tell a cop my name, and I'm not revealing my name myself, and I don't got my ID, then that would be snitching.
Now, according to recent reports on TMZ and other social media outlets, someone close to Nip allegedly knocked Wack out at the Rolling Loud Festival in LA. Wack is denying this happened, and he's offering $100,000 to anyone who has video proof that he was knocked out. Now, in your opinion, does violence ever solve anything, or is it sometimes just a necessary evil?
It's like this, man. If violence has to be prescribed to, I would rather people have a fair fight than to shoot each other up with a gun. If all else fails, of reasoning, a win-win, a compromise, a win-lose, whatever the situation is. When our communication seems to have broken down and you don't see no way out of this conflict other than, in a most barbaric fashion, than to put hands on someone, then I would rather for a person to go down to that level, that primitive level, than to use a gun. Okay, this character here, I'm not going to even dignify him by saying his name, because I already gave him a name. He's a buster. So this buster, his feelings are hurt right now because he feels like a zero. He's constantly feeling like a zero. And anytime he gets in his zero state, he wants to do something big. So when he feels like he's a zero and he's in the zero state, he wants to put Nipsey down. Now that he got healing hands put on him, he's in a zero state because now he's feeling the shame and embarrassment because he came off as this tough guy, but he's not tough. He has a glass jaw. He can't take a punch. See, to be able to take a punch, you have to have the type of brain that can take the impact of a punch. And if you can't take the impact of a punch and you get two-piece and you go down, he's lucky the guy didn't put the LA stump on him. So he ought to just knock it off, accept the ass whooping that he received, and learn from it.
With Wack 100 being the game's manager and the game campaigning so strong in Nipsey's behalf, you know, he has the album dedicated to Nip. You know, he did the video with the blue Lamborghini with a mural of Nipsey on the hood of the Lamborghini, putting up the rest in peace things for Nipsey so many days in a row. To me, that seems kind of contradictory to the game's brand and his campaign of representing Nipsey's legacy the way he's been. To me, it seems like being associated with Wack 100 with the things that he's been saying is real contradictory. Now, what do you think about that?
One's a grown man and one's a buster. The grown man, the gang, he's his own man. You know, he makes his own choices. He never did nothing but honorable toward Nipsey. Now, the buster, on the other hand, the gang was associated with the buster. We all have been associated with busters. So if you really look back on your history with different people, you might have known a rat, someone who turned bad. Just think back. It's not hard. You know, you could realize that. But that was that individual's choice. It doesn't color you bad because this dude hung himself or this dude, went rogue and turned into a rat and snitched on a bunch of people. The gang, he's still doing good things. He can't control what another man does. He could only, make the choices in his life. So I don't color him bad because of the buster. If he chooses to continue to associate with the buster, there's an old saying, birds of a feather flock together. I don't know what the gang says to this dude behind closed doors. I don't know if he argued with him about it, but these are two individuals. Like individuals, they make their own choices because they're in the entertainment world. Their relationship, it might be some type of lawful thing that got them bound together.
What is it about Nip that is attracting all this love and attention nearly a year after his passing?
Well, you have to understand, a lot of the radio stations didn't play Nip's music. A lot of people, they don't know who you are until in death. And you start listening to the lyrics and what the brother was saying and the tone and the style he had and his charisma. And he was a very cool youngster, man. He was smooth and a great role model. And what it is that in his death, you have, the magic of, man, I wish I would have listened to his music. I wish I would have enjoyed it when he was here. Now I'm going to enjoy this music. It's a shame that he's gone. It's like when Sam Cooke was murdered at an early age, and a lot of people didn't listen to his music until after his demise. It's just, the light shines, man. Sometimes the light shines brighter for a person when the person's deceased, because that person, he left so much good work behind that he lives in eternity right here, right now.
Do you think the active gang members from South Central and South Los Angeles in the Watts area will forgive Wack if he came out and issued a public apology? Or do you think it has spun past that?
When a person apologizes for a wrong that they have done, and it's a genuine apology, and that person takes searching and fearless moral inventory of himself and, what he said, what he done, how it affected someone, and it's heartfelt, and you could hear it in his words, in his demeanor, and you could see it because it hurts him now. And I don't know. There's some homeboys who are unforgiving. There are some people who will go to their grave with hate. But there are some that would forgive. I can't color all of us the same. It's sad that this buster, had to take this road to try and get some of the illumination of this brother's light on him in a negative way. he hurt a lot of feelings, with the things he said. What's crazy is that he doesn't come around. So he's talking from his glass tower, and he's staying away. He can't even, go around the hood. He can't go up inside of these parks. He can't go in Real Rogers Park. He can't come up in Centinela Park. He can't go down in Helen Keller Park. He can't ease down in Harvard Park. He's just stay away. So he's just throwing rocks, hiding his hand. If he apologized, I don't know. Some would forgive him maybe, some wouldn't. I know that black people are very forgiving people, by nature. I mean, look, a lot of us in the past had forgiven slavery.
How is it that a guy from the Valley can get away with speaking on dead homies? And could he have gotten away with that in your era of Crippin'?
Most definitely not. He wouldn't have even had the media, all of this stuff to his, it wouldn't have been accessible to him to have such an audience. He would have probably just voiced his negativity on his opinion of Nip to his little bitty, circle that was around him, his immediate circle. So we probably would have never heard about his ill feelings toward our Conrad. He hasn't gotten away with anything. He's already been two-pieced, and he has to walk around, I imagine, always looking over his back and wondering who else is going to two-piece him. So my grandfather said to me a long time ago, he said, if you make your bed hard, you're going to be the one who has to lie in it. So this guy, he done made his bed pretty hard. Now he has to lie in it. It's a shame that people bring these things on themselves. It's unnecessary. But why would you tug on Superman's cape?
Now the world knows that Nipsey was about building bridges across color lines and empowering our people. Now how damaging could it be for our culture to tear down a local legend such as Nipsey, or any prominent figure that came from the hood and came from the streets and was able to make a positive impact on not only the community, but the world? Now, what's your take on that, big homie?
They can't really tear down the dynasty of Tookie, the dynasty of Nip, because what these brothers left behind is long-lasting. You got Crips and Bloods who are friends now. Like tonight, me and my Bonnie Hunter friend, Frog, we had a good long conversation on the phone. Those things are made possible because of men like Big Tookie and men like Nip, who crossed these barriers, who had courage, made friends, and created peace within our small community. Because South Central is not real big. It's a very, very, busy place. And it needs more investments, and more people need to come and look at South Central and give people hand-ups and not handouts.
Tookie and Nip are from the same area in LA, and both died while creating peace amongst Bloods and Crips. Now both impacted their respective areas more than anyone in their generation. Do you feel that is a true statement?
It's most definitely a true statement. While in the joint, Tookie and I, we were in the joint at the same time. We did our incarceration at the same time. We got incarcerated in the same year. I was in my cell the night they executed him. We used to write each other when it was allowed. And his impact and Nipsey's impact on the people from the street, people who subscribe to gangbanging, is felt deep. We realize that we have lost good leaders in our time. Time before ours, we lost Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. So that was felt by our fathers. This, the passing of Nip, the execution style, murder of him, and the execution of Stanley Tookie Williams,